Dr. Stan Frager.
Hi and welcome. Always nice to have you with us. This hour we shift gears a little bit. You're going to become emotionally wealthy. Now, what does all that mean? Well, you'll find out from our guest, Dr. Simon Casey. He has a great deal of experience in mental health. He is a therapist. He's addictions and relations expert, national speaker, has a doctorate in psychology, as well as board-certified alcohol and drug abuse counselor and board-certified eating disorder specialist. So he's done a lot of different things. And welcome, Dr. Casey.
Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Frager.
Nice to have you. I saw where you went to UC Irvine. Are you out in California?
Yes, I am.
Oh, whereabouts? Southern?
I'm in Southern California, a little town called Dana Point.
I don't know where that is. What is it near?
Dana Point is like the southern end of Orange County.
Okay. Well, I certainly know Orange County and Disney World. So what can I say? My master's and doctorate happened to be from UCLA, so I lived about 15 years in L.A.
Oh, that's about 45 minutes from where I live.
Just north of you, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So lot of experience, and of course you're 3 hours behind us, so it's only 10 after 6 there, roughly.
Yeah.
7 minutes after 6, 8 minutes after 6, and so the sun is just going down.
It sure is. Well, the sun hasn't been much up to date. We had a gray and a kind of drizzly day.
We talk about seasonal affective disorder. Do we still hear as much about it? We've actually changed the title of that a little bit in DSM-4, and now in DSM-5 I'm sure it'll be changed again. But do you think that lack of sunshine and the lack of, that change, how influential is that in emotional stability?
I see that quite often. I think it is kind of underscored and very little talked about. But there are people truly experiences major shifts when the sky is so gray and dreary for more than a few days. And actually you see, especially in California, when it's sunny and nice, most coffee shops, including Starbucks, is full of people. And they're out there just wonderful, laughing, giggling, and happy-go-lucky. And as the weather changes and shifts, and people seem to just don't want to leave home. They want to just seem to isolate. And if that continues, it truly does impact people. And I actually have treated people who have that disorder, and they have tried everything. I mean, these people are living in California having this experience. Can you imagine if they lived in Seattle?
I think of the song about it, Never Rains in sunny Southern California.
They lied.
They lied, I know. We've had rain about 28 out of the last 35 days here in our greater Louisville, southern Indiana area. And there's no question that it impacts on people emotionally as well as physically.
It really does. It stops you from being active and engaging, interacting with other people. You become very isolated.
Now, you wrote a book about secrets to emotional wealth. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, let's do that. Well, the book came about really years of hands-on experience and really looking at what works, what doesn't work, and what will have the most impact with people. When I first got into the field, and I was always searching for the answers. What will work with people? What's the common denominator with people? And I always keep coming back to the same thing. Human suffering is a lot to do with human emotions. So whether that's your character defects or your defenses or your relationship problems, they all seem to have the same thing, feelings, how we deal with them. So I started focusing more and more on then how are these emotions or feelings really work, and why hardly any people really focuses on this. And the more I worked and looked at it, the more I discovered that without feelings, really, there is no sense of self. And without understanding feelings, we truly don't understand our world. So I just started looking at and realizing that many people are emotionally bankrupt. They seem to be void of emotions. They seem to don't know what those feelings are. They really couldn't connect with some of them, so they live in a state of confusion. So I said, okay, well, how can I make these people emotionally wealthy? How can I give them what they really need?
Mm-hmm.
And it boiled down to feelings. So I end up writing the book about what feelings really are and how they work and how they really empower people and make them their own guru. You know, it's my idea of getting people well. Give them the tools, let them make it happen. So maybe they can fire their shrink.
Well, when you say get them in touch with their feelings, I think of a friend of mine. I lived for a while with a guy named Fritz Perls.
Oh, yeah.
And Dr. Perls was an MD, PhD, invented something called Gestalt psychology, as you're well aware.
Yes.
And talked with this German accent. And I'll always remember Fritz saying, it would be very good if people could lose their mind and come to their senses.
I so agree with that.
What do you think about that?
I agree with that. You know, feelings have a language of their own. And when you feel them, you're supposed to express them for the way you feel them. But what happens, the process is really changed. People feel something, then they don't come to an expression right away, but they go to their head and they try to interpret that. Then they try to explain what they're feeling, and they become completely lost and confused.
Well, Dr. Perls would argue that in many cases we're totally out of touch with our feelings. In other words, we have these emotions. We're full of rage. We're full of anger. But we're really not in touch with our feelings inside as to what keyed that off. In fact, many times it can be you're very angry at yourself for allowing yourself to be in that position. Often when people say, well, I feel guilty. I mean, that's a typical emotion. I feel guilty.
Yes.
And he would always point out you could substitute the word angry for guilty. You could always say, I feel angry. I feel angry at you for putting me in that situation. Or I'm mad at myself for allowing myself to be in that situation.
You know, Dr. Frager, I was looking at when you said guilt. Guilt is one of the 6 core feelings. And when I hear somebody saying, I feel guilty, and I say, do you know what the definition of guilt is? They often look at me in a very strange way. They go, what do you mean? And I said, well, do you know what and how guilt really takes place? Oftentimes the answer is no. Guilt is a very complex feeling, and many people confuse guilt with mistake. But guilt is primarily anger directed to the self. In other words, if the person is uncomfortable with their anger, when they repress anger, it turns into guilt.
Now I've heard of depression as being anger turned inward.
That's correct. But you see, you look at the stages. The first thing that happens before depression is when we internalize, it turns into guilt, and this accumulation of guilt and anger really farther down reaches to depression. Because we don't go to depression overnight. It's an accumulation of negative guilt over the years.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk some more about negative feelings versus positive feelings. You know, sometimes we feel really obviously the goal is to have more and more positive and less negative. How do we do that?
You know, this is something that really, really I struggled with for a long time, because I was the only one in the field pretty much very outspoken about negative versus positive, because I really don't see feelings as negative nor negative. I see feelings as they are. They are not negative, and they're not positive.
Except a reflection of what is.
Yes. The idea is the way in which we come to terms with our feelings, what makes them negative or positive. That's really it. But as a society, we start perceiving feelings as more and more negative, and there's a tendency to disown them. There's a tendency to believe that we cannot have those feelings, so we isolate or numb those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really, the more we dissociate and distant, and the more we are suffering and thinking the feelings are just not working for us, or they're just bad for us.
Yep. Well, we'll get back to that more. And what kind of feelings are you going through on this Mother's Day 2011? The lines are open. We welcome your calls, 571-0970. 571-0970. I'm psychologist Dr. Stan Frager. We're psychologist Dr. Simon Casey. We're here for you at 970 WGTK.
970 WGTK.
Carat weight, clarity, and color. These are the attributes given to a diamond by Mother Nature. Cut is the only attribute added by the hand of man. If a diamond is cut so its upper angles are in perfect relationship to its lower angles, it sparkles like true love. That's what happens when the relationship is perfect. This is Ashley Davis from Davis Jewelers. Our diamonds are cut for maximum brilliance and maximum visible size. Diamonds with the right relationship. Come and see for yourself.
Let's talk about debt. You know, the debt that has you stressed and overwhelmed because all of the fees and interest charges keep piling up. The debt that has you trapped because your balances never seem to get smaller, even while you're trying to make your payments. That is, until now. Call the Trinity Debt Relief Hotline at 1-800-936-5348. Nonprofit Trinity Debt Management has been serving the Christian community for decades, and we have a proven plan that stops unbearable calls from your creditors, reduces costly interest rates, sets up one manageable monthly payment, and pays off your debt in full. You'll save thousands and increase your credit score. If your debt has you down, we should talk.
Call the Trinity Debt Relief Hotline at 1-800-936-5348. Call now, 1-800-936-5348. Or visit mydebthasmedown.com.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come sail the beautiful Sea of Galilee, where Jesus calmed the raging storm. Explore Capernaum, where with just a word, Jesus healed a centurion's suffering servant. Experience Jerusalem, where Jesus restored a paralyzed man at the pool of Bethesda. Walk in the footsteps of Jesus. See the Bible come alive before your eyes. Sense God's presence like never before. To learn more about standing where it all happened in Israel, visit evangelicalisraelexperience.com. That's evangelicalisraelexperience.com. Come visit Israel. You'll never be the same.
You'll never be the same.
Owen Funeral Home, a Louisville tradition since 1939. The Owen family is someone your family can trust when you need help the most. Some families are numbed by their loss, some shattered. They say, this is someone we love. We entrust him to you. That trust is the reason Owen Funeral Home is committed to the care of your family before, during, and even after the funeral, with aftercare services to assist those who mourn and to educate the family about the process. Owen provides traditional services as well as cremation and pre-arrangements. And pre-arrangements are transferable if you move or your situation changes. Owen Funeral Home honors our servicemen and women as an exclusive provider of veterans funeral care in Louisville.